Commodity prices remain quite low, so managing input costs is particularly important to short and long-term farming sustainability. Maybe this year you finally have the time to dedicate to growing a garden. Soil testing is the place to start in either of these situations. It is the most cost-efficient, vastly underutilized tool available to us anytime that we are growing a plant in soil. My name is Shannon Blocker, and I am the Agriculture and Natural Resources Extension Agent with K-State Research and Extension for Pottawatomie County. Soil testing is a simple process, but it is very important to do correctly for reliable results. With some brief lessons, soil sampling is a job that many youth can do too. It is a practical, hands-on, outdoor science lesson, which many students could benefit from right now. In this video, I will cover the equipment needed, soil sampling technique, completing forms, and delivery of soil samples to the K-State Soil Testing Lab. As a reminder, Kansas State University is an affirmative action, equal opportunity employer and provider. All of this equipment, with the exception of the bucket, can be borrowed or used for free from the Pottawatomie County Extension Office. Currently, we have all of the materials in our drop box outside the door of our office building. A soil probe makes the process of obtaining accurate samples dramatically easier. Otherwise, you need to dig a 6-inch hole and take a slice off the side of the hole. You need multiple subsamples, so it's worth borrowing our probe. You need a clean plastic bucket to put the subsamples in. Make sure it does not have any animal feed residue present, as most feeds have high phosphorus levels and will distort your results. Soil test bags can be obtained from our drop box, or you can also use zipper plastic bags. At a minimum, write your name, county, and sample identification on each bag prior to adding the soil. The sample identification must explain to you where the soil sample came from so that you can match up the results later. Soil test submission forms and a free soil testing grant form are also available in the Dropbox. More on how to complete those forms later in this video. The grant for free soil testing is a non-point source pollution prevention grant in cooperation with the Pottawatomie County Conservation District. To utilize this grant, soil must come from Pottawatomie County, and there is an annual limit to the number of free soil tests per person. At a minimum, you need 1 soil sample per field, garden, yard, etc. Sometimes you may want multiple samples, however. When deciding how many soil samples are needed, take into consideration these questions. Are certain areas being managed differently? Do you often, or at least occasionally, split a field and grow one crop in one portion and another crop in the other portion? Did you winter cows on the field and realize that near the hay ring, soil fertility may be very different from the rest of the field? In these cases, it might be beneficial to fertilize based on these different needs instead of just the average. The same can be true for areas that are significantly different in yield, plant height, slope, soil texture, etc. If the unusual areas are small, you may want to just avoid those areas when collecting a sample. Otherwise, these differences may be a reason to take 2 or more separate samples. If you're not sure, you can Google Web Soil Survey and navigate to your site to see a map of soil types. This pictured field has 3 soil types, but they are not extremely different, and the majority is one type, so probably not worth multiple soil samples. An important question to ask yourself is if you will manage the areas differently if you know that they are different. Will you apply the same fertilizer blend to the entire field whether you have more detailed information or not? If so, then just go to the effort and expense to collect one good representative sample. However, if you will use this information, grid sampled or larger splits based on characteristic observations can be very valuable in terms of financial investment and environmental protection. Since time is money, the most expensive thing about soil testing is actually the labor required to get a good representative sample. You should take soil cores that are 6 inches deep and approximately 1 inch square or in diameter. A soil probe is designed to do this directly. Brush any visible plant residue away from the surface where you collect the soil core so it does not distort your results. One soil sample should be a bare minimum of 10 subsamples. This means that you need at least 10 soil cores. The accuracy and repeatability goes up significantly if you increase the number of subsamples per soil sample to 20. All of our immobile nutrients and pH tests are calibrated and correlated to a 6-inch soil sample depth. Therefore, soil test recommendations will be correct if you use a 6-inch depth. Mobile nutrients like nitrogen, sulfur, and chloride need a 24-inch sample depth. This is done with a double probe using a probe without a footstep or with a special profile soil probe. Our office does have a profile probe, but it is only available by contacting me and making special arrangements. Measurements of these mobile nutrients are not calibrated or correlated to the 6-inch sample, so testing soil for them with a surface sample is almost worthless. Your soil test results will have nitrogen recommendation based on crop and yield average though. If you no-till and know that you will need lime, a 3-inch sample depth can be helpful, but I can also adjust the lime requirement to the lime incorporation or the movement in the soil. To obtain the subsamples, make a zigzag or W pattern to cover the area that you are testing. This is the plan I would use to sample the same field I showed previously. I would make only one soil sample, but would take 20 subsamples all across the field. The X's mark the approximate areas I would take subsamples. You do not have to plan in this much detail, but it is helpful to have a rough idea of how many cores you need from each area of the field, so you can cover it completely and thoroughly. It is the same procedure for lawn and garden tests. You still need at least 10 soil cores, and more is better. They will just be closer together. Collect your subsamples in the clean plastic bucket. Soil can be challenging to get out of the soil probe. I usually use my index finger. One tip is that WD-40 sprayed in the soil probe helps slide the soil out easier and will not impact your soil test results. If you use it, you only need to respray every 10 or so cores. It is easiest to soil sample when the soil is just right, not too wet and not too dry, but generally it can be done anytime the soil is not saturated. You will have more soil in your bucket than you need to submit to the lab. This is important so that you get a sample that is a good representation of the entire sampling area. If you take fewer soil cores but happen to sample a weird or unusual spot, your sample will not be representative and will not give you accurate, repeatable results. Mix the soil cores with your hand well and then pour approximately 2 cups into a labeled bag. You do not need to pulverize the sample. Just break up the probe cores a little and mix well. Soil test submission forms can be obtained from the website listed on the top of the screen or from the Pottawatomie County Extension drop box outside the office in Westmoreland. One form, the soil information sheet, can be used to submit 4 separate samples. It is designed for production agriculture, but it can be used for horticulture as well. If you pick up forms from our Dropbox, the submitted by information, my name and contact information is already on the form. If you download the forms from the website, be sure that you at least list Shannon Blocker and Pottawatomie County in this section, or the lab will bill you directly and at the full rate. The submitted for section is for your contact information, and if you have an email address, please include it. We will use regular mail if necessary, but strongly prefer email due to conditions at this time. Here are examples of how to record different samples. Fill in as much as you can, but we will still make recommendations if you do not record a field-specific yield average, for example. In the vast majority of cases, soil test package number 1 gives you all the information you need to make management decisions. You may want an organic matter test every 10 years or so, And package number 2 provides you organic matter plus zinc, which is the most commonly deficient micronutrient for field corn. Garden number 2 provides organic matter and then surface nitrogen. Surface nitrogen is helpful if you may have over-applied nitrogen to your garden in past years and have significant carryover. The K-State Soil Testing Lab can do other fertility soil tests if you wish, but they are at your expense. Ask me for more information. There are specific forms for gardens, flowers, and lawns, 1 sample per form. You can use these or the soil information sheet I shared previously. You will get the same results no matter which forms you use. In accepting the free soil test, you agree to not apply more than 110% of the soil test fertilizer recommendations. The free soil test grant form is also in the Dropbox as well as our local website, www.pottawatomie.ksu.edu, under Crops and Livestock and under Lawn and Garden. Please put the completed form in the return folder of the Dropbox or email it to me at sblocker@ksu.edu. Samples and completed forms can be returned to our Dropbox in Westmoreland. Please email or call to let us know that it is there. If you want to deliver your samples yourself, the Soil Test Lab Dropbox is on the north side of Throckmorton Hall on campus in Manhattan. At this time, it would be appreciated if you deliver your own samples if you are going to Manhattan anyway. This is the K-State Soil Testing Lab's shipping address and contact information. Your results will be returned by me through email or postal mail in approximately 2 weeks. My next videos will be on understanding your soil test results. I will do one for agriculture and a separate one for lawn and garden. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at sblocker@ksu.edu or call 785-448-7935.